That is UCLA at USC. USC is 6.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 65.5. And boy, oh boy, are the off-the-field narratives and storylines getting fascinating, as there are multiple reports that Chip Kelly could be out of a job after this game. Absolutely insane. I know this isn't the time or the place for the Torres Chip Kelly rant. I think it is insane that UCLA is even considering this, okay? I live in LA, and I'll do this on the Aaron Torres pod. I'll do the full rant. But there is no juice at all in LA for UCLA football. Now, you could argue some of it's Chip's fault. He's not doing enough kind of away from the facility. But on the field, last 3 years, 8-4, bowl game was canceled because of COVID. 9-4 last year, and they're 6-4 right now, but they could finish 8-4. They win this game. They play Cal to end the regular season. That is a potential 8-4 type year. I think it's crazy. The crazier part is this. They have figured out the defense. The defense struggled for so long. They have figured out the run game. It is the quarterback position where they just cannot get things right now. But even still, you have a 5-star in Dante Moore on the roster. So you have the quarterback of the future. You have the run game. You have the defense. You're going to the Big Ten. I think it's crazy. I did the head explosion on YouTube if you're listening on podcast. I don't get it, but let's get into this game. And the one thing I will say, listen, first of all, the administration at UCLA is smart as hell. So I'm sure there's more to the story that I have yet to uncover. And boy, oh boy, Torres is going to do a little snooping after I finish this segment. But I bring it up because UCLA is definitely not trending in the right direction. And they have lost 2 in a row. They have lost 3 of 5. But what is especially noteworthy of the games that they've lost, the offense is completely falling apart. I know I just said the run game is great, whatever. But at the same time, 2 weeks ago, you lose 27-10 to Arizona. And you sit there and say, well, Arizona's pretty good. Jed Fish has things figured out. He has things rolling. Arizona is now a 7-3 team. They've won 4 games in a row. But I bring it up because last week, there is no excuse. You lose 17-7 at home to Arizona State. And it is in large part because, as I just said a minute ago, they just have not been able to figure out the quarterback situation this year. They had a couple veterans. They had Ethan Garbers back from last year. He was the answer for a minute, and then he struggled. Chase Griffin's been in the program forever. He's not the answer. Colin Schlee is a transfer from the MAC. He hasn't been the answer. And Dante Moore, the 5-star you thought is the future, he struggled in his only appearances of the season. And so you now are in a situation where UCLA with Chip Kelly, the offensive innovator of years past, is ranked in the bottom half of college football in passing. But again, you go back to what I said a minute ago, they are still running the ball very well, top 15 nationally in running. And how about this? A top 10 defense nationally. Now, in terms of USC, you don't need me to tell you much about USC either. Just a disappointing year, a frustrating year. They're 7-4. This is actually USC's final regular season game, which means I don't think people fully realize this is almost certainly, barring something crazy, barring Caleb Williams' dad following through on his promise that Caleb Williams could come back, this could be the final time Caleb Williams plays at USC. It's been a disappointing year. You do want to finish in style, but one brutal game last week, okay? They lose to Oregon, final score 36-27. If you stayed up for that game, it was not that close. It was a 9-point final score. It wasn't that close. Oregon, 550 yards of total offense. USC barely broke 300. And if you watch the game, the difference, it's very obvious, is just in the line play, okay? Oregon is just elite on both lines. USC, on the other hand, 73 yards rushing, about 2.5 yards per carry. Caleb Williams was running for his life, as he often is. Oregon finishes with 5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. USC, surprise, surprise, gets 0 sacks in that game. And so when I look at this game, 2 programs reeling, neither playing particularly well. And I will say, I don't think either team's playing great. I do think this is probably a low-scoring game, and I do wonder how much either team has left in the tank at this point. UCLA, they had the bye early. They're struggling. There's rumors about their head coach. It's hard to imagine that they're going to be too fired up to play. But then you look at USC. This is the final game of their regular season. I think this is important to note. This is their 9th straight week playing. So they played in week 0. They played week 1, week 2. They had their bye back in mid-September and have been playing nonstop since late September. Not great for a team that is thin, not great along the lines. They're beat up. And I think it's also worth noting, it's not only they've played 9 straight games, they played 9 straight games against some good competition, some physical competition. Utah, at Notre Dame, at Oregon. Say what you want about those teams. They beat you up, and I just don't know how much juice is left for USC. Beyond that, I'll be honest, I don't know how much juice is left for Caleb Williams. I didn't have listen, the whole him crying in his mom's arm thing, that was a big deal. I mean, yeah, when you leave it on the field, you're going to get emotional. He's been beat up. And I saw this. I thought it was kind of interesting. Lincoln Riley kind of went on a rant about, Caleb's got to clean up this. Caleb's got to clean up that. If I'm Caleb Williams, I'm like, dude, I got 1 game left with you and I'm gone. Okay. So I don't even know how locked in Caleb Williams is going to be. I think everybody's just trying to get to the finish line at USC. Again, because they played in week 0, there is no final game next week. This is it for USC. And I wonder how much is left in the tank. I think this is relatively low scoring. I know USC's defense isn't very good, but UCLA's offense is struggling to move the ball. And I would also add this. As I said, game's not far from where I live. As I look out the window, and I'm turning my head as you watch on YouTube, it is a cold, rainy week in LA. It is expected to be cold and rainy, probably in the 50s, rainy for this game. This screams under to me, people. 65.5 is a lot of points in a game with that weather. I'll say USC wins 30-27-ish, 30-24, something like that. I think it goes way under. I think it goes way under for a USC game. I don't think this is pyrotechnics. I think UCLA wants to run the ball. UCLA plays great defense. I expect it to be low scoring.